Hi everyone. Today I am going to be sharing some information with you about a group of animals called amphibians. So the important thing to remember about the amphibians are that these are animals that they live part of their life on land and part of their life in the water. So here are some important facts about amphibians. Amphibians can lay eggs in the water. They can live on land and in water, and they can grow lungs. So here's a little diagram of what lungs look like inside of a frog. And lungs are something that we use to breathe. So even humans, we have our own lungs inside our bodies. So amphibians also use lungs to breathe. Some other animal groups we've talked about, like fish, for example, they use gills, but amphibians are like us in that they have their own set of lungs that help them to breathe. So amphibians have moist skin. Moist is another word for wet. So typically if you touch their skin, it might feel wet or maybe a little slimy, which is the opposite of reptiles who have the dry, scaly skin. And amphibians also have a skeleton. So this is an example of what a frog or toad skeleton might look like underneath their skin. And you also have a skeleton. And finally, amphibians are cold-blooded animals. So cold-blooded means that their body temperature depends on whether it is hot or cold outside. So their bodies are going to regulate or adapt to whatever the temperature is. So if it's cold outside, as you can see here in this picture, this frog his body is going to feel cold. And if it is warm outside, like it is here, then his body is going to feel warm. So these are some different examples of different types of amphibians. We have a frog and a toad, a salamander, and a newt. Frogs and toads are really similar. You've probably seen both before. Toads we typically see on land, and frogs you can see both in the water and on land, but typically you might see them more in the water. And salamanders and newts look really similar to lizards and geckos, but remember those lizards and geckos are reptiles, and these guys are amphibians. So sometimes when we talk about amphibians, the amphibian we typically think of the most is a frog. So this is the life cycle of a frog, basically just showing you how it goes through its life. So first we're going to start out with the mom frog is going to lay eggs. And remember, she lays those eggs in the water. Then it's going to grow into a little baby frog called a tadpole. The tadpole is going to get bigger and it's going to grow first 2 legs, and then eventually it's going to develop and grow 4 legs. Then it starts to get a little bit bigger and it becomes something we call a froglet. And then finally it turns into an adult frog. And then the process starts all over. This is why we call it a cycle, because it goes over and over again, and it keeps repeating itself. So look at the adult frog and look at the baby frog. Do they look similar or different? Something to think about. So here are a few questions for you. Have you seen or touched an amphibian before? What did it look like and what did it feel like? Think about its skin, its body. What did it look like compared to maybe other animals that you've seen or pets that you have? And finally, how can humans help protect amphibians? So you might see amphibians in a park or somewhere close to you. You might have seen them when you've been outside different places, or maybe you've seen them in a nature center. They typically tend to live in fresh water when they are in water, which are things like ponds and rivers and lakes. So think about what can we do as humans to help protect those amphibians. All right, well, that is it. Thank you so much for joining my slideshow about amphibians.